Here's Brody Brazil.
Kind of feels like so far this has been a back burner type sports story. People are aware of it, but they're not necessarily discussing it at any high level. However, if the current rate and pace and trends continue of this buyout culture regarding college head football coaches, then I think eventually it is going to be a big deal, maybe by the end of this calendar year or going through the next college football season. Are we really up to $1 billion total of head coach college football buyouts? It's possible. Front Office Sports has that information, and we'll get to it in just a second. By the way, this is from the 2025 season alone, estimated head coach buyouts. However, this has been going on for quite some time, and this year is worse than the rest. I'll show that to you in a second, but it's not necessarily like double the amount that we've ever seen before. You've got 10 head coaches here from various universities and colleges across the country, and buyouts anywhere from between $2.4 million to $54 million, as in Brian Kelly estimated departing LSU. Essentially, these 10 college head football coaches paid to walk away, paid to not do their job, and in a lot of cases here, not do their job for this year or next year or 3 or 4 years after that. The buyouts aren't necessarily coming in the final year of a contract. Some of these are coming early contract. Some of these are coming mid-contract. And so they're pretty interesting decisions by colleges and universities to let go of the number one person that runs their football program. In this college football playoff era, this is from Front Office Sports, they say this, including buyouts for head coaches and assistant coaches, which, by the way, sometimes it does include an entire staff. When you buy out the head coach, you're also buying out the entire staff. Other times, it's just the head coach. But including buyouts for head coaches and assistant coaches, the total for the past 12 fiscal years, which obviously includes the previous calendar year's football season, like as in 2015, the fiscal year contains coaches fired during or after the 2014 season. Anyway, long story short, has likely already surpassed $1 billion. Let me sum all that up. In the past 12 fiscal years, the total amount of buyouts for college head coaches and assistant coaches has likely already surpassed $1 billion. Now, we don't know the exact number because sometimes if a coach gets bought out and then they get a new job, and maybe their new job pays more or less, sometimes the old school is responsible for getting that contract up to the dollar amount, so they're not paying the entire buyout. They're only paying a small fraction of it, but at the very least, we know that this number is somewhere around $1 billion if it hasn't already surpassed it. Like, again, the numbers are hard to do in retrospect. You'd have to go through every different situation. So we'll just say a generic number is about $1 billion. And going back through the years, you can see in 2015, $32.3 million worth of buyouts. In 2016, it went up. In 2017, it went up. 2018 went way up. There's been these 4 times where it has surpassed $100 million, and in 2021 and 22, it got pretty close to that. But you can see this year at $185 million alone worth of buyouts, why we're having this conversation, why it has started to accelerate. So as for this culture, as for this trend, is it copycat? Is it, hey, I see what they're doing over there, maybe we should do the same thing? To a certain degree, I think it is. I think a lot of schools are feeling this added urgency right here, right now, with some new things implemented, like a transfer portal, like an NIL window, like expanded playoffs. All of these things are playing into schools like, I don't know that we have the right people in line to do the job here, or maybe we can do better. And there's also, right, with the added urgency of extra elements and the extra need to be competitive, there's also that feeling of like the risk of staying the course, sticking with our person, versus, well, let's just cut our losses right now. Let's pay this thing off and let's start from scratch. When I say staying the course, right, I'm talking about staying the course with the head coach, who's also a big part of transfers and recruiting and strategy and positioning and building a program. Like the head coach of a college football program doesn't just coach the team during games or practices. There is so much more than that. I'm not here to suggest that these coaches should be getting paid what they're getting and also the guaranteed money that they're getting and the amount of years that they're commanding. Hey, it's a free market. They're doing it. But I'm just saying that's where these schools are getting into some trouble here. The risks of staying the course that schools see are like not even close, apparently, to just buying them out, get out of this situation and start from scratch. And yes, these schools, in a lot of cases, did have to sign a long, expensive deal with a head coach and their staff to land the top names that they thought would do the best job of recruiting and transferring and building a football program. There's also the thought, I think, from the mindset of schools and administration that, hey, you know what, if this coach really is talented, and if it is a little bit of a coaching carousel right now, and if they get a new job, and if that's written in the contract, they take that new job, we're not responsible necessarily for the buyout anymore. A buyout is kind of like that severance package, unless somebody gets a new job typically, then you're not paying for their buyout anymore. Maybe you're paying them to get to that compensation number, but again, a small fraction of the entire buyout. Sometimes it's an entire staff that has to get bought out. Sometimes that's in the language of a contract. Other times it's literally just the head coach. Maybe schools say, hey, this is a bargain for us. We can get rid of everybody, but only have to pay for that one golden parachute for that one head coach. Yes, expensive, but it's not like we're paying for everybody here. It's also probably easier to convince your school. If you're the athletic department and you're the ones making this decision, it is probably easier if it's a copycat situation. Hey, they're doing it over there. Everybody else is doing it. Why shouldn't we do it too? And also right now, schools are getting bigger media deals, more revenue that way. So maybe they're feeling a little comfortable in being able to make these decisions. Now, I want to state right here, right now, what I've just said here in the last two slides, those are the perspectives of colleges and universities and athletic programs. Those are not my feelings. I have some different takes on all of this. I think I have more of a sensible, hopefully more of a sustainable view than all of that. I'm just trying to paint the picture of what they're thinking in these buyouts. Here's me trying to think about this rationally, about the whole situation rationally. And especially for public universities, like ones that taxpayers fund, does this seem responsible in an era of budget cuts and layoffs and entire athletic programs getting wiped off the map? I can tell you about Sonoma State right up the road from where I live. They don't have a sports program anymore. They cut it because the budget was short in the California State University system. And so for public universities who are already having like educational issues, these are colleges. I know these are college athletes, which are more like professionals now, but the entire educational system is short on money, but yet we're okay to pay a head coach $54 million to not coach anymore and to walk away from the job. This does not seem responsible. And somebody can tell me, sure, that there's an educational budget and there's an athletic program budget and those two things are separate. Oh, but are they really? It all falls under the same map. If you're telling me that those two amounts of money can't transfer or aren't related to each other, I can't understand that. I cannot comprehend that. Also, this rate of buyouts doesn't seem sustainable. Maybe we're just going through an exponential year. Maybe we're just going through a $200 million year of buyouts, and next year it goes back down to $35 million. It's possible. I'll wait and see. But I have a feeling that, again, all of these buyouts from this year are related one to the next. Here's also a situation. If these buyouts are actually being funded and paid for by donors, like big donors to the athletic program, and if the school's not paying for them, like if here's the excuse, well, you know what, the school's not paying for this. This was not in the budget. We have donors that take care of this stuff. Okay, all right. Well, I wish donors would take care of the educational part, but then how reliant are the athletic programs on the donors, and how much do the donors actually get to call all the shots? Well, the donors just chipped in $54 million to buy out a head coach's contract. Well, now we have to do whatever the donors say because they'll look at us and say, remember when we just gave you all that money? You want us to take it back? The donors are now truly in control of the football program. And I also want to say, going back to the origin of this, and we will get to some takeaways in a second, it kind of starts with the fully guaranteed contracts. If you already have the guaranteed money, I'm not here to say a college coach, a head coach isn't trying their best, but I am saying, what is the incentive to do well if the money is guaranteed? Right? A contract should be a contract, and I get it. There should be some type of severance or buyout, but what is the incentive to do well if the money is guaranteed no matter the results? Or if the contract is 7 years long, why not do a 3-and-3 deal? Why not do a 2-2-and-2 deal if you're the college? That just feels a lot more safe getting into. There could be some possible intervention, by the way. with all of this. Just last week, Representative Michael Baumgartner, a Republican from the state of Washington, he introduced H.R. 5812 to the House of Representatives of the United States. This is called the Correcting Opportunity and Accountability in Collegiate Hiring Act. Wait, what? Those are a lot of big words, but look at the letters. Look at the acronym, COACH, the Coach Act, Correcting Opportunity and Accountability in Collegiate Hiring Act. This would essentially limit any athletic-based salary to no more than 10 times a school's tuition costs. So 10x, like annually, whatever the cost to go to school is there, that's what the top head coach can make. So this is trying to limit, this is like almost a salary cap for college head coaches across the board. I imagine football is the main one of this, but administrators, everybody across the board, any athletic-based salary can be no more than 10x a school's tuition costs. Maybe fair, maybe unfair. It's not capped at a certain number. It's a rate depending on what the tuition is. I don't know how this could be enforced universally. Like we've got public schools and private schools and a lot of different, situations here. But maybe this would be some sort of a solution. Again, I think the guaranteed aspect of it is the hard part, but obviously Representative Michael Baumgartner is looking more at the total salary here and trying to control that as much as anything else. Here are my takeaways beginning with this. I sometimes have to retrain my brain lately because I'm a product of, 1981, but kind of grew up in the 90s, 80s, and 90s, and I still think of college athletes as amateurs and unpaid and unblemished. And I'm not saying that that was the right way or the fair way, and I'm not saying we should go back to the old way. In fact, we absolutely never will. But what I do have to say here is that even I am still retraining my brain to understand that college sports are basically professional sports here and now. Colleges are paying the players. NIL deals are available to the players. They can do sponsorships and brand deals and all that stuff. They can make a lot of money as college athletes where that was absolutely not allowed back in the day. Used to be your scholarship was free, and that was the way that you made something out of playing college sports. But I think, right, as much as we understand that, so retrain your brain, right? This is not the way that it used to be. But even understanding that, the problem here starts with the guaranteed money. And I'm okay with severance. If you cut somebody off for the rest of this season, okay, then you pay them out for the rest of this year. They were expected to coach a football team from this start date to this end date. And I get it. A contract is a contract. That's what you sign. But if the money is guaranteed, if there's no smaller buyout available, if all the money, every single dollar is guaranteed, and it's a lot of years, right? There's a difference between severance and the multi-year deal being paid out. And I think that's where we start here. The buyouts are a reflection of the guaranteed money. So if you didn't do the guaranteed money, you wouldn't be doing the buyout here and now. And again, all of this, paying off, $4 million, $5 million, $13 million, $24 million, $54 million. Like how much does the entire athletic program at Sonoma State cost? A couple million a year? So you've got schools across the country cutting their football coach, just their football coach. And at that price, they could be saving an entire sports program somewhere else. Do you see the contrast there? That's why a lot of this is hard to digest. And really, why is this only happening with college football head coaches? I get it. Big program, the most recruiting, the most money, the most deals. I totally understand that. But why is this problem unique to football? Why is this solution unique to football? I don't think they're doing this with basketball coaches or swimming coaches or lacrosse coaches. What does this mean for the future of football with NCAA? And I'll do a separate video on this. I think I've covered the topic before, but it is my belief that college football someday will separate from NCAA. College football will be its own thing, its own super league. 50 of the top schools will form basically the NFL's minor league system. And they'll get away from all this stuff. And all of a sudden, buying out coaches won't be a big deal, and players will play for contracts, and the transfer window will be different. All that stuff will be a lot different because college football will be its own thing for these 50 some odd schools. Anyway, the buyout culture is real. It's happening. And I think a lot of schools are seeing each other and copying each other. And it has kind of reached a peak here in 2025. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. Also, thumbs up while you're down there helps me, this video, and this channel. And don't forget, if you're new here, I would love to see you back here next time. And to make that happen, go hit that subscribe button, like right now.